Embossed lettering on the front and spine of the blood-red, tooled Moroccan leather binding spells out the simple title, The Book. It's a heavy tome, printed on vellum, and when you fan up the gilt foredge, a delicate watercolour is revealed depicting fantastical animals and plants. On the frontispiece, in sepia copperplate, are written the name and date of birth. The first few chapters are printed in simple, easy-to-read blocked letters, but as the story develops, so does the font, taking on a slope and gradually evolving into an elegant cursive script, increasingly embellished with swashes and spurs, rococo arabesques and curlicues, ligatures and gadzooks. Each chapter begins with an intricate paper pop-up, offering intriguing glimpses of gardens encompassed by morning glory, dog roses and honeysuckle, or fairy tale forests framed with holly, ivy and old man's beard. Let your eye linger, and you may catch a glimpse of movement as a brightly coloured bird skims past, or a fawn starts and bolts into the thicket. Each paragraph begins with an illuminated letter, wriggling and writhing with fruiting vines, snakes and lizards. Every few pages, separated from the text by glassine interleaving, we encounter a meticulously hand-coloured illustration. A first pair of shoes. A birthday tea table with eager laughing faces crowding around the cake and its lighted candles. A beach with crab and shrimp-filled rock pools, sand castles surmounted with paper flags and rapidly melting ice creams. A country lane and a hedgerow filled with bramble, hawthorn and sloe, a snagged stocking, a berry-stained smile. A night sky in poster paint cobalt blue with myriads of elderflower stars and a fat, chuckling honesty seed-pot moon. As the leaves turn, out tumble a button, a paper doily, a few grains of sand and a shell, a blackberry, a flurry of sequins, and one after another, pressed blooms. Jack by the hedge, Herb Robert, Ragged Robin, Lady's bedstraw, Bachelor's button, Scarlet Pimpernel, Enchanter's nightshade, and forget-me-nots. There is a silver-quilled peacock's feather bookmark on a scarlet ribbon, and when the book is opened, if we listen carefully... Yes, there it is. It plays a haunting little tune. At first I thought it was a lullaby, but then it seemed more like an old-fashioned waltz, or more recently, something more compelling in common time. Suddenly, at around chapter 14 or 15, the book begins to change. The typeface becomes uneven, sometimes condensed, sometimes scratchy and indistinct. Letters begin to lose their serifs, and occasionally a stem or a cross-stroke is missing, or a bowl not fully closed. From here on, the paper is cheap, pulpy and yellow. The ink is blotchy and smudged, and the illustrations blurred, where the cyan, magenta and yellow plates have been carelessly misaligned. Nevertheless, there is still the odd, smooth page of lined paper, with a few words of wistful, unfinished poetry. The next few chapters are full of typography errors, poor and erratic punctuation, dashes and brackets, double and triple question and exclamation marks, parentheses and ellipses. Sometimes a sentence drones on and on with all kinds of subclauses and asides, then suddenly runs out in mid-thought, finishing with a conjunction. But there are also occasional blank paragraphs and tiny, crowded diagrams with introvert captions, figure 1, figure 2, figure 3, and 6-point accidents grotesque and Caslon. Now, thumbing our way through chapters 20 to 25, we come across pages with coffee rings and beer stains, squashed mosquitoes and daddy-long-legs, dog-eared corners and angry underlined notes in the margin in red biro. The justified text stretches words out of all proportion into individual letters, so widely spaced that you can almost hear the wind whistle between them, and you forget the letters that came before. Or it jams them up together, as if they had been running helter-skelter, hell for leather, tumbling and stumbling, scurrying, looking over their shoulders as they propel themselves onward toward the end of the paragraph, where the last word stops abruptly, hovering and teetering giddily, arms akimbo, as though at the edge of a cliff, causing all the others to bump into one another and pile up almost so densely as to become a thick black line. The numbering is inconsistent now, double, skipping, even going in reverse or missing entirely from whole blank pages, some of which are as flimsy and translucent as tracing paper, some thick and corrugated with uneven edges as if ripped from a cardboard box. The full stops are now big and black, more like cigarette burns, going through to the next page where an attempt has been made to white them out. Now, the bookmarks are bus tickets, prescriptions, bills, and progressively final demands, letters from debt collectors and court summonses. Do you smell that? The faint odour of neglect and decay, of mildew and nicotine, of unwashed cardigans and unchanged cat litter. Oh, a silverfish drops out and scuttles under the carpet. Around chapter 30-something, without warning, we find that the rest of the pages have been torn out, as if in a frenzied rage, ripped and mangled, razor-slashed, ground almost to a pulp by a boot heel. All that remains are singed and ragged stubs bearing frantic bite marks and damp with spittle. We are thus precipitated into the epilogue, the footnotes, the index. The melodies, very faint now. Largo, melancholy, out of tune, distant, halting, coming no longer from a marvellous mechanical music box, but picked out unenthusiastically on a toy piano with some of the keys missing. Now, all of a sudden, we are brought up short against the scuffed end paper and then the sombre black cover. Surely there will be an inspiring synopsis at least, and a nice review with a flattering photograph on the back flap. But no, the dust jacket has crumbled away, exposing a bleached corner of the cheap, glued binding where it was torn long ago. Near the bottom, there is the tiny silver printer's insignia. Look, if you half close your eyes, you can just make out the tiny scythe.